Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video, we are looking at Centrus Energy. It is time for another update. And on this chart, I have previously provided to you this idea of a large time frame wave 4 correction, area of support from which we expect to form one additional high within the wave 5. This could turn into something even more bullish. It could be the case, theoretically, that this would be another 1-2 setup, but this is not the focus at the moment. For now, we can even focus on the smaller time frame where we have identified a 3-wave correction going into the deeper levels of support for this idea of a wave 4. We have structural support starting, and quite significantly starting, at $163. We have this previous more substantial low before creating this entire movement to the upside that has formed the reversal at this price point. This doesn't mean that we will not be forming a lower low, but this does mean that this would be a region we could expect a bottom within. Now, with that said, previously we have been looking for a potential 1-2 setup in this area. The structure has failed. We have broken the levels of support, and we did highlight that if we were to get a sustained break below the 78.6% retracement, most likely, we would see another low to form within this structure. Not long after the levels of support have been broken, the low has followed. We are now looking to actually build instead a 5-wave pattern within the area of an impulse in this wave C in yellow, which means that I am expecting to build a 5-wave pattern within each of these subwaves. I have to extend the wave 4 to the new low. I have to look for this wave C to get an extension instead. So it's quite apparent how I am tracking this. This would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5. And the structure is really not ideal, but this is what we have at hand. And in terms of the wave 5 itself, I am looking for a 5-wave pattern. This means that I would have to consider only 3 waves to be in place at the moment, and this does actually make sense given that we would like to generally make a stronger low within the wave 5, yeah? Not just a marginally lower low. However, it is often the case that in such large corrections, towards the end of the correction, we do not get that last low. So at this point, I am still tracking continuation to lower prices. I could very well see this structure bottom within this green structural support box and against $194. Especially within this time frame perspective, I have to expect, maybe even favor, one additional low. But then I go within the smaller time frame where, of course, I can track this as a wave 4 top. I do not need any further lows, but I could also be looking for a bottom to be in. I am considering such a possibility, even though I do not particularly like this structure, right? We only have 3 waves up. Even those waves to the upside are not exactly ideal, but then something interesting happened. We formed a pretty complex correction in this area. And from these lows, I can track within the smaller time frame an initial 5-wave move to the upside. This allows me to look for a 3-wave correction into an area of support for such a structure, and then continuation to higher prices within at least another 5-wave move to the upside. I have identified this structure yesterday. I have shared it in the Patreon community, and we seem to have held the levels of support for such a structure. We have bottomed, we have even wicked into the last level of support, and we have already pushed back above it. Could it be that a bottom would be in? Well, I would actually have to say yes, especially since if this structure manages to form a higher high, this larger red wave 4 correction would start to become quite large, out of proportions even, and I would have to strongly consider that we will not be getting that additional low within the wave 5. That's when, from a larger time frame perspective as well, we might start to actually favor a more substantial bottom to be in. For now, we would still have to be a little bit patient, and certainly, the most interesting accumulation area from a large time frame perspective remains here within the green support box. We haven't actually touched it. The 50% retracement is the last level of support for this wave 4 anyway, so we would have room for that one additional low. But I do not know what will happen, and frankly nobody does. But if we see a sustained break above $194.3 at the 61.8% retracement, it would be a pretty good hint that a more substantial bottom would be in. Then I would be looking to take out the previous swing highs. That would also be useful in identifying a more substantial bottom to be in. But as it stands right now, these are the resistance levels I am tracking. If we really want to, we can identify, even within the smaller time frame, a more bullish pattern than what we would typically consider such a structure to be. I could realistically track a double 1-2 setup that would allow even this to be a third 1-2 setup, and for a wave 3 to take off, possibly quite aggressively, and to build our wave 5 from these levels. This is a major player in the nuclear sector. The fundamentals are there. The structure and the potential is there because, as we can quite clearly see, even within the wave 5, we can expect to push to new highs. That could easily take us to $600. That would be a 3x, an over 3x in fact, while we aren't really risking that much, especially since we don't have to buy a falling knife. We can buy the confirmation, we can even wait for a bottom to be in, and this is when a bottom could be in. Now, if we want, we can take a very, very brief look at a smaller time frame, but as I was saying, this idea in white could be working into a triple 1-2 setup, in which case I do not need much of a retracement any longer. I could be looking for the wave 3 to be taking off quite aggressively, and within the smaller time frame, the most important level we could be taking out are these previous swing highs, right? And one more thing before we end the video. If we actually fail to hold this white setup, this idea of a wave 3 already being in place, so I could realistically be looking even for an internal 1-2 setup here. But if this fails to hold and we form a lower low, it is most likely that this wave 5 in red would be playing out. So we can minimize risk in this way. We can be looking to exit if we see this structure start trembling, if we see this structure failing to hold its strength. And for now, we will stop here. These are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.